Sound check 1 2 3. Sound check 1 2 3.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to all those who have joined us here in person and online for what is likely our final meeting of the City of Hamilton Mayor's Task Force on Transparency, Access, and Accountability. As we have quorum present for today's meeting, I'd like to formally call our meeting to order and acknowledge everybody that's joined us today. Like I said, online and in person, city staff, all the members of our task force, as well as our project partners, Enterprise and SPRC Hamilton. And starting off today's meeting, I'd like to acknowledge that the City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas, land covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase of 1792, between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across our island, and we recognize we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our role as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. And these are principles that we've kept in mind as the Mayor's Task Force has done its work. Moving on to our formal agenda, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to today's agenda.
Thank you. No changes noted. May I please have a mover and a seconder? So moved by Joanne, seconded by Tinashe to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion about our agenda? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. Agenda is approved. Are there any declarations of interest to note? Okay, noting that there are no declarations cited. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which was December 3rd, 2024. May I have a mover and then a seconder to put the minutes on the floor. Moved by Tinashe, seconded by Madeline. Are there any questions or commentary about our previous minutes? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Okay, motion is carried. The minutes from our previous meeting are approved. Moving on to our main agenda items today, items for information. I will first ask for a mover and then a seconder to put our items for information on the floor. Those items being correspondence from Lyndon George, Executive Director of HARC, in regard to the work of our task force, and as well the draft report of our Mayor's Task Force. May I have a mover to put them on the floor? Joanne, and a seconder. Madeline, okay, thank you. So the items are on the floor. The correspondence that we received from Lyndon George was received a while back as part of our process for collecting input and feedback, so we won't go through that in detail today. We have had the opportunity to review that and consider that as part of the development of the report. I'll just ask quickly if there's any commentary, questions about item 6.1. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 6.2. So just to resituate us within this process, the work of the Mayor's Task Force. A lot of work has gone in from everybody involved on the project team to get to this point in terms of collating and gathering information and insights from all those who wish to come forward and share perspectives on our work. A lot of work following that has gone into the report development, where we went through, we organized that information, and we also layered in our recommendations, our perspectives into that. And now we are at a place, after that work being done, where we have our draft final report ready. And just as a reminder for everybody in terms of our timeline and process, we are looking for that report to be presented on April 9th to GIC and for a fulsome discussion to be had about the details of the report that's presented at that time. So on that note of item 6.2, the report is just presented for information today, but this being our final meeting and also the fact that we haven't had a formal opportunity to meet as a group on the report, we've asked our colleagues from Enterprise to briefly kind of give us a recap of the components of the report, and we'll have an opportunity to quickly open up the floor for any commentary or discussion. So, Calvin, I will turn over your way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the task force, first off, for all your help and support. Obviously, it's your report, your process, but you guys were great to work with through this. Really quick, I was going to give kind of a general overview of flow of the report, and then just touch on really quick the recommendations that we've settled on as a group. So the report starts with a bit of an introduction of the task force, a letter of sorts from, actually I'm going to say, from the five of you. and a little bit of what you were doing and why. We run through the methodology, everything that we did, the interviews with city councilors and staff, focus groups with frontline city staff, with Indigenous groups, and with equity deserving communities, written submissions, public delegations, and the Engage Hamilton survey. And then from there, we go into a bit of an overview in terms of what we heard and our general observations from all those various processes. And that brought us into the recommendations. And there's 5 kind of core recommendations with some sub-recommendations under that. Recommendation number 1 is a digital transformation in the city of Hamilton, including an upgrade of the city's website and a concerted effort to digitize historic records. This is intended to facilitate ease of public access to information, make more public information available to the people, prioritize the user experience on the city's online platforms, and to kind of develop and refine tracking portals that will allow public access to track a project from start to finish, whatever that project may be. Recommendation number 2 is pretty general, but it is a call for overall improvements to the city's communications infrastructure that will support coordinated and proactive communications with the public. This includes things such as a plain language policy for any public-facing materials, ensuring adequate translation services are in place, a comprehensive review of all the city's communications policies with the intent to streamline and align communications across the various city departments. This would be accompanied by an organizational audit that would basically intend, or the intention of that is to deconstruct silos and strengthen central communications from the city to just make sure there's consistency coming out when the city's engaging with the public. Number 3 is to make equity the foundational principle guiding all operations at City Hall. So this would include things such as equity training for councilors, senior leaders, and staff, a reintroduction of the neighborhood strategy initiative, fostering a culture of openness, and then empowering certain communities within the city, such as disability community, youth communities, diversity, or different diverse groups, making sure they're feeling empowered to engage with the city when and if they need to. Our 4th recommendation is executing training for elected officials and staff on any new processes, procedures, and equity to better support improved customer service and stronger community connections. This is including an investment in technology for various platforms or portals that will support training and sharing of best practices amongst staff. It is training on data sharing, on resident-focused communication, on design thinking, on equity, on reconciliation, just to make sure that everybody is up to date on language, on technology, on all the various tools that are available to ensure that they can be, to use the task force names, as transparent, as accessible, and as accountable as possible. And the 5th one is the development of an ombudsperson's office for the city and the development of a reporting mechanism to measure council's progress in these areas. I think the ombudsperson's office is relatively self-explanatory, something there to address complaints with the city. The other part, the report card, so to speak, a set of high-level dashboards that are publicly available, updated at a regular basis, reported publicly, that would be able to show measurable progress. So there'll have to be an establishment of benchmarks and KPIs and whatnot at the outset that can be measured against, but essentially a tracking system that is going to allow the city to measure its progress in these various areas.
Thank you, Calvin, and everybody on the project team, SPRC Hamilton, Enterprise, the members of our task force have had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with this report and with this information, and we're pleased to see the final draft where it is now. So on that note, I'll just open up the floor to members of my task force. Any final comments, questions before we move towards sending our final report off to GIC? Okay, well, we've got a quiet group today. We've spent a lot of time on this project. I will just take a moment to note a lot of work has gone into this project, not that just those who directly contributed to it that I just mentioned, but also many members of the community, organizations, and individuals who took of their time, energy, inspiration and thoughts to share with us ways that the work of the task force could be advanced. A lot of time was spent really combing through all this data to try and distill it into the recommendations that were ultimately put forth, and we really look forward to having a fulsome discussion with the GIC April 9th. So on that note, if no other commentary, I'll ask for a vote to receive 6.1 and 6.2. All right. Oh, checking. Are we all in favor? Okay. We are all in favor. The motion is carried. The items are received, and I will take that as a positive endorsement of our final draft there. Before we close off the meeting, as I mentioned, this is likely the final meeting of our task force. So in terms of any other business, I'll just open the floor to our task force. If there's any comments we want to make or leave on the table, Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to say that this was quite a liberating experience, you know. Talking to Hamiltonians, you do that. And I was stopped at Walmart, Canadian Tire, everywhere. People were so jazzed about saying their two bits, getting involved. So I'm really happy about how the report turned out. There's a lot of work to do, of course, in that report. But first, I wanted to thank all my members of the committee. You guys are awesome, and especially our co-chair here, who held up a lot of the business end, and we really appreciate all the work that you put into it. And so I just wanted to thank them, and of course our incredible partners over there, Social Planning Research and Enterprise. Can't thank you enough. You really brought it home, and I thank you so much for all the work that you've contributed. And I'd just like to say thanks to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Madeline, Sashi, any parting thoughts?
Thanks so much for those words, Joanne and Mark. I think as I reflect on the experience, it's been an honor to contribute to this process. This is extremely important work that infuses itself into every aspect of the city's work across our community. I was just reflecting on how many thousands of volunteer hours must have gone into this, not necessarily just around this table, in fact, way beyond, including all of those community members, organizations, other representatives who contributed their input. So I just want to acknowledge that, and that it's folks coming forward because they see the possibilities for our city, see opportunities for things to be even better. And everybody's come forward in good faith, hoping that that input will be able to be leveraged for improvements across the city. So that's very exciting. I guess I would end off with saying, you know, looking at the report, it's got a lot in there. It may look on first glance to somebody sitting in that seat of needing to then act on it to be a lot. But I would actually put forward that we have really distilled down the input of hundreds of individuals into really what are the low-hanging fruit, what are the high-yield interventions that we would foresee being opportunities to improve accountability, access, and transparency across our city. So thank you all for being on this journey together. Thank you to Enterprise and SPRC and all of our community partners.
Excellent.
I'm glad I go last because I really can't say anything more to that, but I'll just add that as someone who just moved here a couple of years ago, this couldn't have been the best thing. This was the best thing that I could have gotten involved with. It really just allowed me to see the diversity of Hamilton, the history of Hamilton, and really seeing the community participating was something that I was most excited about because I got to connect. As far as the report itself, to echo what everyone else has said, I think it's a lot, but I think that if everyone could sort of take a piece and just champion that piece and steward it, I think we will be in a good place. Just to also add that the late Bill Clusters is not able to be with us today, but he definitely was a part of this work, and so I just want to note that. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's taken the time, and Jessica is new here on leading us in this work as well, so thank you for joining us as well when you did.
All right, thank you, everyone. Well said, not much more I can add, so if there is no other business, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment. From Joanne, seconded by Madeline. All in favor? All right, thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned. Nice and well, hey.